Alright, so this is my object painting system. So we go to Tools, Painting, Object Painter. There's quite a few different options here, including rotation, whether or not to contour it to things, random size scalings, and in rotation there's one random camera Y, which means it faces the camera, and then camera Y with an offset. And if we do that, then we have to define the offset here. I do 180 degrees so it faces away from the camera, making it easier to see where I'm placing something. So as a good example, let's go to these palettes I already added. To add palettes, you go to the editor and you create new categories, and these are the categories. And when you click on a category, it shows you the objects in the category. And then down here, I've got my prefabs shown, and you can just mass select your prefabs, and then click Add Selected, and that will add it to the palette here, or to the category. And then in the category, you can create palettes, which actually pulls from all the objects in the category that you've chosen. So like my mountain cliffs, I've separated my cliffs into two categories here. So the mountain cliffs are a lot bigger, and as you can see, there's pluses and minuses here on these. Plus means you'll add it to the palette, and minus means you'll remove it from the palette. So that's a good way to kind of organize the different brushes that you want to create for what you're painting. And this is also a great way to really kind of organize your objects here, because even if you don't place them in the exact place you want, it's a lot easier to get all kinds of objects from different folders out onto the scene quickly and in the general area you want them to be. So that being said, I'll give you a little bit of example of actually painting something. So I'll go to my rocks and I'll start by just painting a single individual rock. And as you can see, it rotates as I rotate the camera, so it's always facing away from the camera. And now I can move it down by holding D, up by holding A, and then forward by holding W, and back by holding S. And so I can kind of move it exactly where I want it, inlay it into the terrain, and then I press spacebar and it releases it exactly where it is. And then, so I can go to my palettes, and I can select actually, you know, multiple types of things. And then to cycle through what I'm currently selected on, I press tab, and it just switches out with different objects in that palette. So I can paint them like this. Now the reason it is actually slightly above the terrain right now is because it's raycasting off my water plane, which you can't see without the light on right now. So yeah, there's the water plane, and the water plane is actually technically a lot higher than the visual part of it is. So it's just raycasting off of that. But if I was to disable that, then it would raycast right off the terrain like it's supposed to. See, right on the terrain. And then we can just choose things like random to get our random rotations on there. And then when we spawn objects, then it automatically rotates them at a random y-axis, and then continues that rotation with the camera. So that just makes it super easy to paint, organize, and get 3D models into your scene in general. I mean, it doesn't have to be just 3D models, but you know, ideally it has a mesh renderer attached to it. So there you go.